Coach, what are the areas that you focus on in terms of improving in the red zone? And what did you see that maybe was lacking there last season?
Yeah, I think it all starts with our run game. When you get down there, you look at any successful red zone team, you're going to be able to run the ball. We weren't able to do that consistently last year. That's been a big point of emphasis for us. I think that really is the foundation and cornerstone for who we want to be with a power spread team, right? We want to be able to play wide open, but we want to be able to create those run lanes inside. It starts there. That creates those advantageous situations out on the perimeter to be able to take advantage of throws on third down. So red zone to me, and the emphasis all offseason has been getting that identity in the run game that we need.
Let's go Damian and then Andy.
Tyler, how's the quarterback competition gone so far this in camp? I know second question in, but
I knew it was coming. It's okay.
but what have you seen out of Grant and Kyron so far in terms of who might be trending toward getting that start against Old Dominion?
Well, I'm not going to give you a trend for sure. What I've seen out of both young men is just their growth and knowledge and the understanding of why behind what we're doing. I think it's super critical. Players, every player at every position, you have to know who to, you have to know what to do, right? You have to know how to do it, but it's really important, especially at the quarterback position, that they understand the why. And I've seen growth with both guys. We're really early in camp still. I don't want to get into all the specifics for anyone, but it's a good battle. Both guys are doing really good things, and I'm excited about the trajectory of that position.
How does your role or experience change being hands-on in the quarterback room and being able to see those guys on a daily basis?
I'll tell you, it's been refreshing for me. I think I get to understand their why more, being in that room every day. So that's been good. I think in totality, like what we're seeing is a little bit more cohesion, I think, with that unit. When I look at that position, more than throwing the ball and running the ball and all the things they have to do physically, it's really decision-making. With what we do offensively, there's a decision to be made on every play, whether that's a run-pass option, whether that's a first-level read, right? There's always decisions to be made. It could be something simple to the naked eye of us just running a base run play, but we have to hold a backside defender that the receiver can't block with our eyes. So just every day, them understanding more of that, me understanding more of what they're comfortable with, I think it's been really refreshing for me and the whole unit.
Do you have to have one guy in that spot? I mean, could you foresee playing two? Have you experienced playing two at any stop that you've had previously?
Certainly been a part of playing two quarterbacks in different packages, but I think, you're always trying to trend, towards finding a guy that can take over the helm from a leadership standpoint for what you're trying to build the offense around. Fortunately, in that room, I know they're all a little bit different and unique, everybody is, but we have a good room. We got good athletes. We got guys that can run, that can beat you with their feet, beat you with their arms, and what we've really been focused on is that decision-making, being able to beat people with our minds.
Middle of the room to Joey, and then back to Damien.
What's the biggest lesson that you learned from last year, and what are you doing to kind of transition into this year, either from an improvement-wise or something that you did last year that you just didn't like at all and that you want to switch over, and just kind of your adjustments on that?
We've made a lot of adjustments. I think you would every year, regardless if you had a really fantastic year offensively and you were high in statistics, or you were really low as we were last year. So we're always looking to improve. I don't want to get into any scheme changes, but I think the biggest thing that we learned as a staff is just understanding, let's not put too much in too early, particularly for the guys up front. Let's make sure we get the foundation on some basics, be able to get in, get our identity runs in, and then start building out from there, right? You want an identity, and then our job is to be able to formation, motion, use tempo, different things to be able to vary that identity.
Let's go Damien, then we'll go David and Tim.
You mentioned in your red zone response about how important the run game is. Have you seen a difference in the run game with Malachi Thomas being healthy, and what has Bashal Tutin brought to that run game that helps with your scheme?
I think both guys have shown so far through the spring, right? It's still early in camp, but that we can have a 1-2 punch which I think is important, right? We had a Rolodex of guys going through different skill set levels. I think we've settled on guys that are very similar in what we want to ask them to do from a majority gun run standpoint. So that's certainly brought consistency, right? Being able to read those runs over and over, that helps the offensive line set up blocks. Another guy I've been really impressed with that making a change that I think has a chance to make a difference in our run game is Caden Moore moving into center. I think he brings a physicality in there. He's doing some really nice things. And I just think I've never been around an offensive line unit that's as cohesive and close as that group. And I think that'll pay dividends for us down the road.
You mentioned Malachi a little bit there. Coach Pry earlier was up here and said he's seen some things out of Malachi in these first couple of days of fall camp that he hadn't seen him do last year during the season. I know he was banged up a lot,
Right.
but what do you feel like his full potential is when he can reach it, and a little bit more about that 1-2 punch? What makes those guys so unique and a little bit different, and how do you envision kind of using both at the same time?
Yes to the last question. We do envision using both. How they're different, I think, what I've been able to see spring and then especially in the camp is a healthy version of Malachi, which, you saw that last spring and then, obviously had the injury early in camp. But Malachi, from his skill set, I think you've got a really smart, savvy running back. He reads plays well. He can pack a load with them. We saw that at times last year in games, right? He can make a muddy 4 into a 5 or a 6, and I think that's what you see there. And then Bashaw can do those things as well, but a little quickness and explosion. I think the ability to make guys miss. I think they're both unique in their own ways, but also bring that power element to them. I think the big thing with Malachi, going back to his health, is, I've been impressed with just his burst, right? When he sees things, being able to hit the hole and burst through. And just overall, I think Coach Brooks is doing a really good job with that room as far as how we're seeing things. There's a lot more goes into it than just running, right? There's certainly natural ability, but the way they're reading things, setting up blocks, I think that's going to help our guys up front.
Let's go Tim, Steve, and then we'll finish it on with Andy.
Tyler, beyond kind of Allie and Jalen in that wide receiver room, what have you seen from some of those other guys battling for that third starting receiver guys like Daquan Feldman, Steven Gosnell, Dawan Lofton?
Yeah, start with the other guys. I mean, Steven Gosnell just continues to get better every day. You talk about a Mr. Consistency, just how he runs routes, his movements, how he sets things up. We have a lot of, routes with different details and conversions in our offense, and he's just shown to continue to grow in that. I think he's really mastered the offense. He can play all 3 positions. And then going to Quan, I've been really impressed with him. Just what he's brought to our culture, number one, he is he's a big-time competitor when we go on the field. He's nice to have on your side. But, I mean, he's picked up the offense seamlessly. You're watching him do things out there that I think are really exciting. And that's a good battle in that room, right? You got four guys right there at the top and then some others coming on that you feel really good about. Guys flash every day. So it's a good situation. I certainly feel like we have more depth at that room.
Let's go Steve, and then Andy to finish.
When you're working with Grant, he started probably as many games as anybody in the league at this point. When you, after the season last year and through the summer, what were kind of the points of emphasis with him?
Yeah, I think the big thing, right, he made a big transition, right, and Kyron's making the same transition. It's how seamlessly can we get them acclimated to our culture, number one, right, to his teammates, number two, number three, the offense. And I think what I've seen, from Grant this offseason is just a comfort level being here. Obviously, he wanted to be here, but just more comfortable with his teammates, taking a little bit more of a leadership role. I think him and Kyron both. I don't know if I've been around a group of 2 guys that have really led an off-season passing program when the coaches aren't there like those 2 have. I think they've done a really good job, and I think we're further ahead from a pitch and catch standpoint than we were last year. But just his growth, I think I'll go back to it, and I'll say it a million times, the understanding of the why behind what we're doing. I think it's 2 things. It's second year in the offense. It's the change that we've made, just being able to be in there. And it's not only the call, right? Everybody on the field that we put on there on a Saturday is going to be able to execute the call, but getting all 11 guys to understand why we're calling that play to attack that defensive coverage, front, pressure, whatever they're presenting us. So I've seen growth in that area from him.
Coach Pry talked a lot about giving up defensive play calling allows him to be in the offensive room more. What has that been like with a little more influence from him or a little more input from him? It sounds like it was a little bit more late last season, but certainly into this offseason too.
Yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it when he was with us in the Liberty game. Just little things that he sees from a defensive perspective, I think add a lot of perspective for our room. And then every day at practice, just seeing things, letting us know what's hard formationally, because a lot of times a defensive coach's view and an offensive coach's view can get far apart as far as what's hard, and a lot of times just keeping your scheme simple and moving people around and things like that. So it's been really good to have his voice in the room for sure.
We have time for 2 quick ones on Zoom.
On Zoom, just open with your name and media outlet, please. If we could go to Tim, please.
With Tyler, Tim Sullivan from HokieHaven.com. You mentioned wanting to improve in the run game, specific to the red zone, but generally, when you self-scouted this offseason, was it offensive line experience that was your biggest issue, or were there things that you guys felt you needed to improve schematically?
I think some of both. At every position, it starts with 100 level, just the basics, technique, footwork, fundamentals, our mentality. But two, just what we're asking them to do schematically. I think we've done a much better job of really researching this year and not installing an offense, but really installing an offense that suits the offensive line from a run game standpoint. There's a lot of good plays, right? But we've got to make sure our guys are able to go execute those plays. So I've seen us grow in that area, and we've really doubled down on that as far as the reps that we're putting forth in the run game at practice.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you about a couple of the Richmond guys. Keyshawn, who's been, I guess, maturing at that defensive end position, and then also Jalen, who obviously moved over from the offense. What is the outlook for them, and what has their development been like?
Yes, so those are 2 young men, Keyshawn Burgos, Jalen Jones, that we've been extremely impressed with defensively. Maturation is visible on both of them. Their work ethic has been phenomenal. On the field, they're growing and developing each day. We like their growth and where they are right now and their trajectory heading towards the future.
Chris, what have you seen at that Mike linebacker competition? I know Brent mentioned earlier that Jaden Keller and Jaden McDonald are kind of maybe some front runners, and Alan Tisdale's also heavily involved in that battle.
Yeah, it was really good competitive practices to watch out of those names you just mentioned, Jaden Keller. Tizzy's played Mike and Will, so is J.K., and also you got Jaden McDonald. The beauty about how we train and develop, in that particular room, you have a primary position and also a secondary position. So we got guys rolling in and out. The thing that I've been really impressed with has been the ability to communicate to the defense, get us set, take command of things when they're on the field, and execute at a really high level. I mean, you think back to the spring, Jaden Keller won our Most Improved Player Award, but again, we're in the fall camp now. So it's about who can compete, who can do it consistently, and really impact the defense.
Front row, Damien.
Chris, you spoke about Jaden McDonald, but him and his twin, Jordan. How have they improved now? I get second year in your system and learning from both linebacker and defensive end positions.
Yeah, great question. So you're looking at 2 young men who in high school, who right up the road at Salem High, who played receiver, played a little bit of tight end, played corner in high school. Were here, they played safety, and then by the time we got here, when the dust was settled, we asked one to play DN and asked one to play linebacker. So first of all, you got young men who can adjust and deal with change really well, come from great stock, but also 2 young men who are really students of the game. So they approach it in a way that all coaches would want each player to approach the game. They're students. Not only do they work extremely hard on the football field, but in the offseason, Coach Galt can't say enough good things about both of them. So they've gotten stronger. Both of them have worked in areas of flexibility. They're both extremely fast. We like the physicality that they bring to the game as well. Yeah.
Go back in the room to Ryan.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay, hanging in, chilling. Coach talked a little bit about Jonathan Penix. What have you kind of seen with his development so far that he seems to be kind of moving up the ranks a little bit more since there's such a young core back there?
Yeah, Penix is a young man, again, who we've been extremely impressed with. You talk about somebody who is mature, who comes from a program that knows how to win. He knows how to work, comes from a great family. And so he's somebody who is extremely coachable. And he's a young man who's made a tremendous amount of plays only because I think he's taken it upon himself not to behave like a freshman. If he walked in right now, you wouldn't think that this is his first time on a college campus. Looks like somebody who's been here for a year or 2. And, every opportunity that he gets, he tries to make the most of it. He's young, so he's going to make mistakes. Every football player does from time to time, but we're happy with the direction he's going, and Coach Cheetah has done a phenomenal job with him.
All right, let's get front row to Andy, then we'll go Joey, and then back in the room to Lane.
Chris, you guys had 9 turnovers for us last year, which is, I'm sure, is a number you want to get higher this season. How do you
Absolutely.
get that number higher, other than catching more interceptions? Are there things you can do schematically, or are there ball security drills you have to emphasize in practice? How do you get that number higher?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us defensively, that was certainly an area. It was an area of interest after the season, and certainly this off season. So you look at it, you analyze and synthesize what was going on, what can you do differently, and then you also, in our profession, you do a significant amount of professional development. So you look around at different programs that have had success in that area annually, right? You also look at professional teams that have had success in that area annually. You also look at coaches, head coaches or defensive coaches in their system that have had success in those areas consistently. And then you try to pull things from what they do. And you also add to the things that you do in the off season. So we've certainly addressed that area in a number of ways. We've added circuits, different things that we address or emphasize during defensive unit meetings or as a team. But it's certainly been an area of interest, and I think I like the direction we're going in it.
Are there things schematically that you saw in those other teams that they do? Is it just a matter of getting more third and long situations where you know they're going to have to throw interceptions?
Well, when you look at it on average, right, if you look at the aggregate, if a team defensively has been really good taking the ball away one year, then the next year they probably are too. Also, conversely, if a team wasn't as good the year before, obviously that's an area of concern that it gets addressed, and the next year they're usually pretty good. If you look at the numbers over the last 10 or 15 years. So that's one. Two, you also have to develop the techniques, the mindsets, and the approach in order defensively for you to attack the ball. Certainly when they're passing the ball, but also when they're running it. Any opportunity that we get to swarm the football and collectively get around it as a defense, all 11, your chances go up to get the ball out.
Middle of the room, Joey, and then Lane.
So I have kind of like a 2-part question.
Yeah.
So now that you're taking over the play calling duties on defense fully, first and foremost, how does that feel? And then, as far as last year going into this year, what are some, adjustments or some stuff that you have done to kind of improve, whether it be defensively, schematically, to, just provide improvement to the defense? That was, pretty good, all things considered, last season.
Sure. I think first and foremost, I have to acknowledge and recognize that it's not my defense, it's ours, right? It takes a collective effort between myself, Coach Price, Coach Cheetah, Coach Pilo, Coach Quinn, and all of our QCs and GAs and all of our student workers, and to get our guys going in the direction that we need them to go, so that on Saturdays we get the product that we want and the kids get to reap the fruits of their labor. So that's one. Two, certainly you want to address the concerns or areas of weakness that was just pointed out that you want to get better in, that shape games or have a significant impact on the outcome of games. And I think with that and having another year within our system, commonality of language, the understanding of concepts, guys playing as a unit, I think if we can address those and continue to improve in those areas, we're certainly going to be better.
Back of the room to Lane.
Coach, with the roster that you have right now and just in general, how many of your freshmen do you think might see some significant playing time this year? And does the year next to the name matter all that much to you?
Yeah, the year next to the name does not matter, and I don't want to pontificate and talk about what's going to happen game one. We're only in practice 6 today. But what I will tell you is that class that we just signed is full of young men who are mature, who know how to play football, and are hungry to get on the field. So that's what we're excited about. Those are the type of young men that I think the Virginia Tech alum and community and young men who used to be a part of this program who are alum now can be proud of. And we're excited about their development and their growth, and we're excited to see where they'll go.
Last one in the room to Mike Barber.
Coach, what are the areas that you focus on when coaching red zone defense? What do you like about maybe what you saw last year and what needed to be corrected or enhanced?
Sure. I think not just red zones in itself, but you certainly want your defense to play with great speed. You want your defense to be aggressive, but certainly you want your defense to be smart. So when we're addressing situational awareness, red zone is just one of those areas that we look at, right? So we break it down in a few different ways, but once a team enters the red zone, usually the mindset of the play caller and the plays that are going to be called switches a little bit. There's not as much vertical grass. You can anticipate motions and looks to try to get people's eyes. You can anticipate clusters or shrink formations. You can anticipate people attacking your perimeter. In addition to that, a lot of times when teams cross the 25, whatever that threshold is for that particular team and play caller, you can anticipate a few things that you haven't seen in the field, whether that be trick plays, whether that be attacking a certain player on defense or getting the ball to a particular player in the pass game or the run game. And certainly, if the quarterback hadn't been running the football in the field, you can expect them to run it down in the red zone. So those are the few areas we talk about. And certainly with our guys defensively, the more that we can make them aware of it, the more we can train their eyes to have them in great stances, to anticipate and play anticipatory football as opposed to just reacting, that makes us a better defense.
We have time for one or two quick ones on Zoom.
On Zoom, please share your name and media outlet before your question. We'll start with Colby, please.
Hey, Coach. Colby Crawford, VT Scoop. I just wanted to ask, how is Stone Snyder looking working in at that Mike linebacker, inside linebacker position?
Yeah, Stone is a young man who is very mature, man, who is really smart, who has a ton of football under his belt. Stone is coming along. You know, obviously he has some guys in the room who have been a part of our program, a part of our language and nomenclature system for quite some time. And so he's catching up with that. But he's somebody who has worked extremely hard this offseason since he's been with us. And he loves the game of football. So he's coming along.
Last question on Zoom. We'll go to Tim, please.
Hey, Chris, Tim Sullivan from Hokihaven.com. When you look at how you guys performed, especially in the fourth quarter last year, obviously at times the offense kind of put you guys in bad positions, but how has your depth come along so that you can be a consistent, quarter one to quarter four defense over the course of this coming season?
Yeah, so it begins with mindset first, and so that's something we've been talking about and addressing all offseason. How can we finish in the fourth quarter? And if it goes beyond the fourth quarter, our ability to finish, to set our jaw, and to get it done has certainly been an area that we've talked about, and not only talked about, have practiced and put our guys in those situations almost incessantly. So we're continuing to do that this fall camp. I think when you talk about the development up front, the maturation and the games played up front, also at linebacker, also at safety, and also out on the perimeter at corner, you got young men who have been in games, who have experienced those situations, and you got young men who are coming along who we're developing and are learning how to finish. So that's certainly been something we've been talking about and addressing, and we're excited for the opportunity ahead.
You had a bunch of guys working at punt returner the other day. How soon do you have to sort that out? Is Holloway sort of the top guy after finishing there last year? Do you have other options this year?
Well, we love what Tucker did. I mean, Tucker had a great second half of the season. It says a lot to be a true freshman, to come in and take on that role, which is a big responsibility. So we're certainly looking at him to play a pivotal role there. The addition of Jalen Lane, who's been a nationally ranked punt returner, certainly puts us in a good spot. A lot better spot than we were this time last year.
Stu, how do you envision using Cole Beck and that natural speed he has there on specialist? You can probably use him in a variety of ways.
I envision him running down the football field like the 100 meters. I envision him playing as fast as he possibly can, which will make him the fastest guy on the field, I believe, every time that he's out there. We've got where we're working with Cole is teaching him the techniques to get in the open field so he can use his speed. Being really good at releases, really good with his hands, understanding pad level, understanding footwork, really trying to hone in on the little things that can help him get to where we want him to be a little bit quicker. And he's been great. He's working very hard.
Questions, Coach? Go ahead, David. Do you see him
Do you see Beck in the return game as a returner, even though with a backlog there, or do you see him more as there on coverage units?
Yeah, he'll get an opportunity at kickoff return. He's been working that quite a bit in this camp. He returned for us last year in the last game against Liberty. He was back there and returned some for us. So yeah, he'll certainly get an opportunity back there as well.
Other questions for Coach?
What have you seen in John Love kind of at that kicker spot, and what are your expectations for him?
Well, we love John's approach, his mental approach. He's very even keel. He has his approach physically, the way that he attacks the ball is extremely consistent. John hits a straight ball.
I don't know how much, you play golf, but if you're going off the tee, if you can hit it straight off the tee, you got a chance, and John doesn't spray the ball very much. He's very consistent in hitting the ball straight down the field. It gives us an opportunity, and he's got the right mental approach that we're looking for.
Stu, changing it up to the tight end room. You got Nick Gallo, their veteran guy. How has he looked so far, and is Daquan Wright back healthy now after, I guess, dealing with a minor setback in the spring?
Yeah, the tight end room is doing very well. Our focus has been on playing with better technique, fundamentals, really playing in a physical way. Nick is leading that and has had a very good camp so far. Daquan is doing very well and really working hard to improve in those areas. He's a special talent. Benji Gosnell's back and playing well. Harrison St. Germain. We've got several guys that are really doing a nice job in camp, and a lot of it, they see Nick. Nick's a guy that's played a lot of ball here. Is a very talented player. Goes about his business the right way. We talk a lot about he practice like a pro, carry yourself like a pro. Nick's got that figured out. So it's a huge plus to have him back.
You mentioned Benji Gosnell, obviously torn ACL, was dealing with that last year. What have you seen from him coming off injury, especially four-star recruit, a lot of pedigree with him?
Benji is, when he puts it together, he's the total package. I mean, the guy can block, he can catch. He's a very good pass protector when we ask him to do that. He's got size, he's got speed. So Benji is certainly gotten back. He worked really hard to get back early. Was able to come out in spring and play well, and he's just continued down that road. So we're very excited about Benji.
Front row, Dave, you're coming here.
What have you liked in Peter's maturation at punter? What have you seen from him and his development over the summer? And what do you like about where he stands, so far in fall camp?
What I love about Pete is what I love about most of our guys. I mean, they want to be better. I think Pete felt like that he could have been better last year in terms of giving us location and hang time, and he's really worked hard on that. Just as I feel like Justin Pollock feels like he could have been more accurate with the snaps, and thus could have helped Pete. And Justin's had a great camp so far, and we got a great competition at punter right now. Nick Velsistis is extremely talented. So is Bryce LaFollette. We got three guys that are really battling right now, and Pete's leading the way and has the upper hand as far as experience. But I like his approach every day. He's very mature and really is working to get back to where he knows he can be, and we do too.
Last one in the room for Tim, and then we'll go to Zoom.
You guys brought in a long snapper in Griffin Armstrong. What have you seen from him, and then also some of the returners, especially Justin Pollock?
Accuracy from Griffin. He's accurate. Snaps a very catchable ball. Christian Epling is very capable as well. So three talented guys there. Kyle Lowe we didn't talk about, but Kyle's a weapon kicking the ball off, and his place kicks are really good. So we got competition everywhere. Returner wise, I mean I like having a running back there because a guy can break some tackles when we're not going to block them all. So we'll work several guys there. We haven't gotten the return phase and kickoff just yet in camp. Focus has been more on punt return, but it's coming. It'll be here in the next few days.
Let's go out to Zoom for a couple questions.
On Zoom, just please open your question with your name and media outlet, and we'll start with Tim, please.
Dear Tim Sullivan with HockeyHaven.com. You guys blocked just one special teams play last year from the opposition. With a year of experience in Blacksburg and getting ready for all these things, do you feel like you'll have the opportunity to, at least when you do go after a kick or a punt, to send it home a little bit more frequently?
Yeah, Tim, that's been a big emphasis this summer. We're able to work with the guys in the summer more than we have in the past. So that's been a big emphasis for us. What's going to help us more than anything is our team speed is better. We have our overall team speed. We're adding a lot of young guys, some of the transfer guys. So that's something that we always want to pressure kicks. We always want to make it tough on the guy back there. Whether we're blocking it or we're setting up the return, we want him to feel our presence. So yeah, that's something that we're working hard at.
Last question on Zoom. We'll go to Colby.
Hey, Coach. Colby Crawford, VT Scoop. You obviously had mentioned Cole Beck. You want to see him at gunner. Was there anyone else that you've been working at gunner? Like maybe I remember Fontel Mines. He referenced Xavier Turner Bradshaw. Maybe at that position. Anyone else there?
Yeah, I call him XTB. He's got a long name, so I try to shorten it up. But he's done really well, man. That guy's quick. He's hard to get a handle on. He's hard to get your hands on. I tell you, the guy that just shows up, and he did last year in the games, and showed up this year so far in camp, is Jalen Jones. JJ is very talented in space, really plays reckless, which is what you want at that position. But, in truth, we've got, Nazir Peoples has done it a bunch. Stroman's really good at it. What we're looking to do is have about 8 guys that are really hard to handle in the open field, and we feel like we're well on the way there.